let's go here to Angel. Hey, with the Musgrove out for 2025, if they could have signed Michael King along with Darvish, the Padres should be good to go.
Well, Darvish is under a multi-year contract. King is still arbitration eligible. I do think they'll try to creatively finance a contract to get Michael King affordable contract. I would think this year he probably gets bumped to about $8 million. So what do you want to do with the second year? You give him a second year at maybe 10 to 12 million. I don't know that it'll go much beyond that. You know, the Padres, I think the bigger issue is who they keep, who they let go in the everyday batting order. And that obviously weighs into the equation. What do you do with Profar? What do you do with Higashioka, the catcher? What do you do with Arise? Again, I don't think they can keep all 7 of these guys because the payroll would bust up to north of 205. I don't think ownership wants to do that. We'll see what happens. I was told there's a Monday meeting, Preller and the ownership, to determine, quote, what the budget is. So if they bump the payroll up some, maybe they go to 175, 180, then AJ will have to work his magic. Some guys are going to exit here when they're done.
What do you do with Jackson Merrill? I mean, you don't have to give him a raise. You don't have to give him an extension. Do you just kind of stick with him at the rookie contract level?
I think that's kind of unfair considering what they've done in the past with Tatis before he was arbitration eligible, what they've done with the draft picks. I would bump him. So, you know, he made $800,000 last year on the first year rookie contract. Second year, I think, is $850,000. You know, maybe you go from $800,000 the first year. Maybe you get him to $3 million, and maybe then you give him $5 million the second year, and just go there. I don't think they're going to give him $10 million per year. Nobody bumps a guy from $800,000 bare minimum to $10 million just like that. He's only been here 1 year. But you take care of him to a degree.
Yeah, hopefully they can do that. But would you like sign him to a long-term deal? You know, kind of jumping the gun here after one season and locking him up at a lower rate?
Yes, but what's that number?
Right.
But you sign him to a 10-year contract after just one season. You got to be judicious here. It is interesting. 2 weeks ago, A.J. Preller in his end-of-season get-together used the word about building a championship team, quote, responsibly.
Yeah.
Responsibly means limitations on further expenditures, years or dollar value for multi-year contracts. So I'd take care of Merrill, but I'm not giving him a 10-year contract at this point in time, especially since you've got so many other guys that you really have to deal with.
Remember, like about 10 years ago, they gave those long contracts to, what was it, the Hundley, the catcher, and
Chase Headley, and
Chase Headley, yeah, and even I think Venable, and none of those guys really worked out.
Well, they were established major leaguers, but they were not stars. But they were the only cornerstones we had to hang our hat on at that time. I mean, Hundley and Headley had roared through the farm system, and I got to know both those guys really, really well. I liked them; they were pros, but they were 260 hitters who, I mean, Chase Headley had the 1 year hit 32 bombs, but then he got hurt, and his career never quite matched that one great year he had in San Diego. But you have to trade carefully. I'll give you a 30-second story. Do you remember the pitcher Andy Bennis?
Oh, yeah.
High number 1 draft pick.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Young guy got here. Well, he had the second year. He pitched really well, but he was still an arbitration guy. And they just hassled with the agent about the dollar value. I was at spring training doing my broadcast, and they were still in Yuma at that point. And Andy Bennis came with another pitcher, Greg Harris, and they sat in for an hour, took calls. It was fun radio. Right towards the end, I got notification that the Padres had a right, if contract talk stalled, they had a right to automatically renew the contract. And they renewed Andy Bennis' contract at the same freaking salary he had the year before while he was on the air with me. And I mentioned it to him, and Andy had a meltdown right on the air.
That was the first he heard of it?
Yes.
Was from you?
Well, Andy was with me. I don't know if his agent couldn't get hold of him on a cell phone. I said, we just got this note that the Padres have renewed your contract. It might have been $700,000. And stuff he said on the air, I thought, oh, my goodness. Andy... Greg Harris rolled his eyes. Greg Harris was another young pitcher.
He was good, too.
He got hurt. But I thought, oh, this is terrible. And Andy just went on and on. He was just so furious. And he eventually wound up getting traded. I think he got traded to the St. Louis Cardinals probably 2 years later.
Yeah.
But so that's the fine line you have to walk if you're going to renew a guy. But I don't think Preller does business like that. So I don't think that's an issue. They'll find some dollar figure that's above the minimum for Jackson Merrill as a reward. Now, whether they go from $800,000 to $4 million just like that remains to be seen. All right, next question. Let's move on.
Okay, let's talk a little Dodgers, and this is from Mike Lopez. Reports in Los Angeles, Teoscar Hernandez moving to right field to open up room for the Dodgers' #1 prospect, Dalton Rushing.
Well, they took the catcher Rushing, and they have spent right at the end of the PCL season, and what they're doing now in the Arizona Fall League, and Rushing is playing the outfield. But that's rookie. That's rookie has to prove he can play. That's rookie has to prove he can play and hit major league pitching simultaneously. Now, remember, they do have Andy Padres, and remember, they still have James Outman. But there's also rumor maybe it's Gavin Lux because they're moving Mookie back to second base. So they're going to have some candidates. And Teoscar's a pretty good person, pretty good player. Could he play right field? Maybe he can. So there's moving parts. They could also trade somebody. One of the things I heard is maybe they shop Lux at the winter baseball meetings. They trade him and something else to get an established outfielder. But they want to re-sign Teo and Teoscar. Now, they just offered him the qualifying offer, which is only $21 million only. He made 23 last year on a one-year deal, so I don't know that he wants to take a pay cut to stay, so that they may have to bump him a little bit more after the 33 home run season. So, yeah, there's a lot of moving parts as to what the Dodgers are going to do.
What happened to James Outman? Because when he first came up initially as a rookie, he was killing it.
Stopped hitting.
And then all of a sudden, he was hitting under 200.
Yeah, and then he sent to Oak City, and then he hit the hell out of the ball. They brought him back up. He didn't hit. Then they wound up sending him back down. He never, ever came back because Andy Padres came up, and he played more credibly at home plate. So, but Outman's still in the mix. People called at the trade deadline to talk about him, but Dodgers did not want to deal him at that point. Somebody might be moved, might be one of the outfielders, might be Gavin Lux. Somebody's going to get moved, I think.
Now, Lux was like their #1 prospect for a very long time.
Bad
right?
knee injury.
Yeah, that's when he torqued it in the spring training against the Padres. I remember that.
It's taken him a year. Now, he had the miserable start last season, but I'll tell you, from the All-Star break on, he had over 300. He went back to being who he was with the stick.
Right on. Well, good
but
for him.
He couldn't throw from short to first. He was bounce throw, and they moved him back to second. So that's why Betts is going to be the second baseman. So maybe Lux goes to the outfield because he's an athlete, or maybe Lux is the trade bait.
Steve Sachs syndrome.
You got it.
Okay, let's go here to Chris. My sources are telling me the Dodgers are prepared to offer Clayton Kershaw a blank check to return next season under the condition that he not be on the postseason roster. The Dodgers do not win this year's World Series without Kershaw being inactive. Other teams, knowing they would not get to face him, were completely demoralized. Reaction.
Oh, come on, Chris, you're reaching. You're going to separate your shoulder reaching for that. Here's the storyline on Kershaw. And I say this week, it may have already happened. We don't know because they haven't confirmed it. He has 2 surgeries. One is obviously for the bone spur in the toe. The other is for torn meniscus in the knee. He opted out of his contract. Not that he was unhappy with the $10 million offer on the option year or unhappy with the bonus clauses, the incentives. He opted out to give the Dodgers the space on the 40-man roster, John, so they could protect another player. So he's going to retire as a Dodger. He wants to pitch. He says he'll be healthy to pitch. I'm sure he'll come back, probably re-sign at $5 million with incentives if he has a healthy season and stays on the mound. So this is not about Kershaw wanting a big payday at the end of his twilight of his career. This is Kershaw doing something for the Dodgers to give him a spot on the 40-man roster to protect somebody with the knowledge that he wants to come back and finish in Dodger blue.
Yeah, that's just the right thing to do.
Classy.
I mean, it's kind of like when, we've seen so many cases of athletes at the end of their career switch teams, and it's mind-boggling seeing them in a different uniform.
And they do it for paydays, and then they got options, and the guy had a crap season, so he's going to invoke the option so he gets a second payday. It's the way baseball is right now.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm no Dodger fan, but I want Kershaw to be a Dodger.
And I think he will finish that way. Okay, next question. Thanks, Chris, for the comment.
Okay, let's go back here to Emmanuel. And he says, is the NFC West weak or really competitive? Do the Rams have a chance on winning the division?
It's interesting. You need to check my one man's opinion column today. See what happens when you don't read my website. I wrote a full column about the second half of the NFL season, and I broke down every team in the NFL.
You did.
You're a National Football League fan. Just go to my website, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. Takes you to the homepage. On the right-hand side of the homepage, there's each of the different pages. I have a one man's opinion column. read my opinion column if you're a pro football fan about your favorite team. That being said, NFC West, Arizona looks kind of dangerous. I don't know whether they can run the table or go deep into postseason, but they look kind of dangerous right now. John Gannon's got these guys believing. And Kyler Murray's playing really well and hasn't been hurt. Geno Smith is putting up staggering numbers, but he's got no help around him. He's taken so many hits, so many sacks, they can't stop anybody. So Seattle's not what Seattle is. Right now, these Rams are playing really well. And the intangible thing, John, virtually all the guys who are on IR are about to come off IR. It's almost as if the second half of the season, the whole roster that they did not have to start the year is going to be back. And they've won 3 in a row. Stafford's playing really well. Cooper Kupp is back. Nakua is back. Obviously, the running back, Kyron Williams, has been very serviceable, near 100-yard games. And those 2 kids they drafted, Verse and Fisk at the top of the first and second round, they're playing our ass off. So suddenly, they got a team that's getting healthy and a team that's already proven it can play, and McVay's turned out to be a great teacher. So Rams could forge their way. I mean, think about this. They were 1-4, wind up a playoff team. That's pretty impressive.
Well, in your one man's opinion column this morning, you were even questioning if this was a playoff year for the 49ers.
Yeah, well, I mean, by product of all the injuries.
Oh, of course. But, it's just weird when that division, NFC West, San Francisco usually is always at the top. Now, if you were to go around the NFL, is there one division you think is the best or one division you think is the worst?
Good question. NFC North kind of looks like the black and blue division, but then Detroit went into Lambeau Field and punched the Packers in the mouth. And the Bears, who had that great start with Caleb Williams, now they're a little Jekyll, they're a little Hyde, so you never quite know where they are in terms of the development. It's wide open. This whole thing is based on, are you healthy?
Yeah.
If you're not healthy, San Francisco has just been ravaged. Now, Christian McCaffrey's going to play this weekend. Can he hold up with a calf in the Achilles? They don't have Ayuk. Deebo Samuel's had all types of physical woes. George Kittle's playing on one knee. He's been banged up. He is playing. You can only lean on Brock Purdy so much before he starts throwing interceptions. So Frisco's not what Frisco potentially could have been. Just got so many guys hurt.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable how much they've been struggling to have all their talent on the field.
Yep.
So McCaffrey coming back will make a big difference.
If he can hold up. Next question. Thank you.
Okay, let's go here. And by the way, this comment here from Dodger fans, they're still dancing like peacocks. This is from Nando. He goes, Dodgers World Series champs, you bums.
Dem bums got a ring. We talk glowingly on our Monday podcast. In fact, we've had the most, or maybe second or third most views ever in the 15 months we've had this podcast on last Monday's Salute to the Dodgers. I think my column was Dodger Blue equals Dodger Royalty.
Yeah.
How cool was that? So the glow in the sunshine, and now the Dodgers, as I just reported in an earlier segment, the Dodgers, I've been told, have the inside track to get Sasaki, the bright young pitcher out of Japan. I mean, imagine if they add him to that entire young pitching staff that's going to be back finally. They think a lot of these guys are going to be back totally healthy by opening day. Holy cow.
Well, they have so many pitchers. I mean, if they added Sasaki and you got all those young kids, they had.
But some of those guys are also rehabbing and are not going to be ready.
Okay, but still, I mean, now I will say this for just the viewers that are watching the podcast: the Instagram feed is insane with Dodger fans that were angry at you for, saying the Dodger way was broken.
Now, in midseason, when all their pitchers broke down, you had to raise that question. If I'm a journalist, I have to look at the story and say, this is what I know. This is my opinion. Are you going to do something about it? I mean, the national media was writing, too, about, quote, the Dodger way. They wrote 2 weeks after I had done my column and what we had said here. So I'm not bashing the Dodgers. I'm just dealing with the facts.
You are, yeah. But the funny part about all of it is the Dodger fans. That's the funny part about the whole thing, because they're bagging on you when you were critiquing him. Then they were bagging on you for the Padres, and they're saying, oh, he's a San Diego fan, he's not an LA fan, he hates the Raiders, he hates the Dodgers, yada, yada.
By the way, Did the host show up wearing a Dodger hoodie?
You did.
And then I got bagged by a Padre fan.
You did. It is whichever way you turn. And now we did the video on Instagram of you praising the Dodgers for winning the World Series, and they went out there and they did it on the field. And you still get crap from Dodger fan. They're like, we don't want your backhanded compliment. You screw you. You're not one of us. Stay down in San Diego. And I'm like, oh God, these Dodger fans are just relentless.
You see what I had to deal with as a talk show host every minute of every day, but that's okay. Hey, we're here talking about your team. Sometimes it'll be good, sometimes it'll be bad, sometimes it's one man's opinion, but it's great to have you as part of our team. By the way, you own that. All right, next question. Thanks for the call.
Okay, let's get a little NHL here. This is from Darth Skater. Winnipeg Jets versus the Colorado Avalanche. Should I bet my firstborn son on the Jets winning or only my house?
Just the house. Keep the kid. I mean, the kid might turn out to be a hockey player and you'll be the parent of a hockey player making mega money. Don't trade the kid yet. Winnipeg's off just an unbelievable start to the NHL season. Colorado's got a lot of guys dinged up. And they had hoped by this point they were going to get their captain, Gabe Landeskog, back. He's been out 2 years with cartilage transplant surgery in his knee. He's practicing, and he's still not cleared. Colorado has had injuries in goal. Winnipeg right now, at this given moment, on Portage and Main in Winnipeg, which is the coldest street corner in North America. I've been there, I know. By the way, Winnipeg fan, you like my sweatshirt today. Winnipeg right now is playing really great hockey. Whether they keep this up, whether they keep their people healthy, but as long as you got Connor Hellebuck back there in goal, you got a chance to be really, really good. Got to keep him healthy, too. Got a long way to go, but World's not going to take those wins away that the Jets already have. It's been a blazing start in Winnipeg. I'm surprised. Hey, you guys standing on Portage and Main before the snow comes? I bet you're damn surprised, too.
Well, there's Winnipeg. All the fans are piling in.
All Canada.
And T. Will has a comment. He goes, Hacksaw is going to need to start a daily Winnipeg Jets segment.
These guys, I warn you, I don't want you to have a heart attack. If one of these days guys show up wearing Winnipeg Jets gear, you'll know I'm a kind of a Jets fan. And that's coming from somebody who's a Maple Leaf fan, who's married to a Montreal Canadiens fan. So just understand that I might show up wearing Winnipeg Jets gear. How you going to react to that?
This is all so awesome. Okay, going international. Here's another comment from Angel. Loved your baseball and football movie list. Are you planning to do basketball and hockey movies?
Well, we've already done the hockey thing. We did the Slapshot thing. And how would hockey fan access the movie review we did on Slapshot? How do they do that on YouTube?
Well, just Google Lee Hacksaw Hamilton Slapshot, and I'm sure it'll come up.
Okay. So if you're a hockey fan, but we have talked about doing basketball. We have been talking about hockey, but we did the baseball and football things, and we've gotten a lot of unique and very different reaction. Like anything else, everybody's got an opinion. I get bombarded with emails. How come you did not rate Rudy as the top football movie? Well, Rudy was okay, but Rudy was not in my top 10 list. I think it got honorable mention.
Yeah, it did.
Along the way. So everybody's got an opinion. When you have your own podcast, you can do your own rating, right? Right.
I'm just thinking in my head of all the basketball movies and even the basketball TV shows like The White Shadow, which I loved. But there are a lot of really interesting hockey movies. I mean, the one about the 1980 USA team.
Miracle.
Yeah, the Miracle on Ice. I mean, and then, of course, Slapshot. And, I mean, what are the other hockey movies off the top of my head? Maybe The Mighty Ducks?
Yeah. You asked me too quick. I'd have to think about that. But
yeah.
We'll get around to it.
But I think these are great for us because they provides us some content when you're on the road that we can do. And then plus there's a lot of other movies in sports that are not any of those four sports. Mm-hmm. They're cycling or running or something else, and those are all great too.
So for a hockey fan on the O Canada Network, when you get a chance, just go to Google Lee Hacksaw Hamilton Slapshot movie review, because we did one months ago. And the response we got from all my friends in Canada, from Toronto to Winnipeg and out to Vancouver, said, man, that was cool. Because I told a lot of stories. At the end of the day, I was in the minor leagues doing hockey, and I was in that league, in the North American Hockey League, when, quote, the Charlestown Chiefs, actually they were the Johnstown Jets, and the arrival of the Hanson brothers, which is really the Carlson brothers. You'll get a kick out of it. We ran some movie clips in it, so... Just if you like hockey on the O Canada Network, Just type that up and watch it. I think you'll get a big kick out of it.
The comments section are great on that Slapshot review that we did because so many other people love that movie passionately and have the inside scoop like you do. And so they're saying, oh, yeah, I remember that Hacksaw. And they kind of give some more anecdotes to kind of fill in the gaps of the story. So that's a one that people really love.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was my last year in the minor leagues in hockey before I went to Cleveland and broadcast the Cleveland Crusaders. In my league, in that Slapshot league, the broadcasters included Bob Costas. He was a young guy coming out of college. He started his career in Syracuse. So he was one of the broadcasters. He went on to a brilliant career. I went on to the NFL. We had other guys who went on. There was a guy in Erie by the name of John Paul Della Camera who became the voice of World Cup soccer on ESPN. There was another guy who was on Long Island, Eli Gold. He became the voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide. He just retired about a year ago down in Birmingham. So there was the 5 of us. They were all the same age, all drinking beer on the bus in the Iron Lung, and we all lived through, quote, Slapshot. And as I said when we did the movie review, I'd say 85 to 90% of the junk in that movie was true because we all lived it.
What an all-star roster of broadcasters that is.
It was cool.
That's unbelievable. You see, remember Bob Costas just retired from baseball play-by-play.
Yeah, he's going to continue to do freelance stuff on networks, but he did a great career. Great career. He started out drinking beer, riding buses with the Syracuse Blazers, while I was drinking beer, riding buses for the Mohawk Valley Comets, and we both used to go into Johnstown, Pennsylvania, where the Charleston Chiefs were and got our ass kicked. Okay, let's move on. Next question,
right,
but check that out if you're a hockey fan.
Okay, here's a 3-parter, and this is from Rick, and he says, who you picking for the Ravens and Bagels?
When you got a quarterback that's got a quarterback rating of 120, that's what Lamar Jackson has going into the game tonight. That's a hell of an accomplishment. So I got to pick Baltimore. Cincinnati's quarterback, Joe Burrow, is just brilliant. But beyond Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, please tell me who else they have to carry the workload in Cincinnati. I think Baltimore's going to just take them out. Baltimore looks like a complete, really dangerous NFL team.
Well, there's the other 2 parts of this question from Rick. Rick said, also, can you pick the over-under? And I will make a 2-team parlay for $1,000 on your picks.
Oh, don't do that. I don't bet. I work too hard for my money. You can do what you wish. Just take what I said. I think Baltimore's going to blow them out.
There you go. Okay, let's talk some Lakers with David. Lakers are going to be so bad this year because of getting mini LeBron. They will have so many issues until LeBron decides to retire or leave Los Angeles.
Well, they're capped out because of AD and because of King James, and now they have kept their draft picks, but this is going to be a process. I mean, these guys on the bench haven't played really well, haven't shown that they can make a difference coming off the bench, and all the yakking from J.J. Redick is not going to change the fact that these guys have deficiencies, and that falls at the front door of the general manager, Rob Pelinka. He made the decision to go get the Gabe Vincents of the world and the Cam Reddishes of the world. And, yes, some of those guys have been dinged up, but they just don't look like that. That's a complete basketball team, and they're not playing one iota of defense. I mean, when you're giving up the kind of points they just gave up on this road trip, well, I mean, when you allow Detroit, 14 and 68, scored 131 on them. Detroit. You allow that to happen, what does that say about your team responding to the coach? And J.J. Redick's having meltdowns with everybody.
Yeah, that's insane. Horrible defense.
And AD's dinged up now.
Well, what about Dalton Connect? I mean, what's your early analysis on how he's gotten his pro career started?
Was 1 for 7 last night, shooting threes.
Really?
Yeah. He's young. He's going to need reps. You know, and Rui Hachimura did not play last night because he got sick. So now you don't have AD and you don't have Hachimura. So it's 2 of your 5 starters. And then nobody's playing a lick of defense. And the young guys, led by Connect off the bench, are just kind of overwhelmed by all this. So, you know, you can say, well, it was a 1-4 road trip. That's 4 bad games. But please tell me, is it going to get better? I don't know. If you don't have AD, 100% AD, and you got LeBron, and those 2 guys are playing so many minutes, that's a big issue. David, wish I had better news, but that's where we are right now. We'll see where it goes. Next question.
Okay, let's go here to Raul. He says, Lee and John, what is the status of the sports arena? Redevelopment, do you both see this becoming a reality?
I think yes, but the wheels move very slowly as it relates to the political issues in the community, and zoning ordinances and all that. Stan Kroenke is the guy that's got the right to build the arena. I'm told it's going to get built, but it's just been a slow process.
It's going to get done. Yeah, I think it will. And it's interesting because in that part of the Coastal Commission has a limit on, I think, like 35 feet for the height of buildings there. This obviously is going to require some exceptions to that rule. And I think the voters voted to pass it, but then it didn't pass the legal mustard, and so had to go back to the ballot. So it's been messy, but it's got to get done. And that part of town could really use a big upgrade.
And I think it will, because Kroenke, what's his history, track record? Doer.
Oh, yeah.
That's where we are on that. It's a good question. Takes time. Next question.
Okay, there's a lot of people here sounding off about the election. I'm not going to go there. Okay, let's get some social media, and there's a lot of good comments there. And we'll go to here. Let's talk a little Padres. This is from Matthew. That wasn't Schilt's decision. That's a dictatorship, and Preller told Schilt to pitch cease. More importantly, the Dodgers traded 4 players to get Machado and could have signed him. Why didn't they? He's a cancer, and the Padres will never win. His huge ego and clubhouse off-ball behavior, that's why Judge and Turner took less money to play elsewhere. Then Preller acted desperately to sign Bogarts and Cronenworth to really bad contracts.
I think some of the contract extensions or some of the contracts they gave were kind of excessive. I think it will come back to haunt them. That's why I said this had to be a World Series year. They didn't do it. Some people say they choked. They got beat by the Dodgers, who were possessed. Next year has to be a World Series year, because after that, then they're going to wake up and they have a bunch of guys going to be 35 with contracts to go to age 42. They have players in the farm system, but those guys are at least 2 years away. The Solaces and the DeVries of the world, that's a ways away. We'll see what ownership does. This meeting, I believe it's going to be on Monday with Preller and ownership about the budget, will give us a much better handle as to whether they're willing to bump this payroll back up. AJ's going to have to move some players off the roster, but I totally disagree that Machado is a punk or a bum any longer. I think he's a consummate team guy. I think he's matured as a person. You got Tatis, who's shown the flashes of being a star again. Obviously, Merrill's something good. They've compiled a really good veteran pitching staff. So, you're acting like it was a 69-win season. It was a 93-win season that had the Dodgers 2-1 and let the thing get away from them. I mean, they're pretty good, and I still think it's a complete team. Now, it'll be a different team by the time they get to the Cactus League in February, I guarantee you, because all teams are different because of budgets and payroll and the luxury tax. I still think it's going to be a good team.
You can't really blame the Padres losing out on Aaron Judge and Trey Turner. You can't blame that on Machado. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. It's not like those guys are saying, I don't want to play with Manny. Trey Turner went to the Phillies because I think his wife is from Jersey.
Mega contract, by the way.
And the mega contract. And Aaron Judge is beloved in Yankee Stadium, and why would you ever leave if you were getting a competitive deal? I think Machado is misunderstood. I think people are stuck on what he was like 10 years ago. He's a mature man now. And that whole business with the Dodgers and, Dave Roberts making up that big story about he threw the ball at me, that was just garbage. It's just trash.
It was just to change the narrative. That's all.
Yeah, but it reinforced the Manny Machado bad guy stereotype, and I don't think it's deserved.
But we can't walk away from the fact, and A.J. Preller's tried to walk away from the fact, 24 straight shutout innings at the hands of the Dodgers when you had the series 2-1. That should be eating at everybody.
I mean,
or is it just baseball?
No, it's not just baseball. That was the Padres could have won that series and could have run the whole table and won the championship, and we'd finally have a parade in San Diego. But no, the Dodgers win it all, and I think we're cursed.
Okay, but appreciate and respect what Dodger Blue did, please.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I concur. I mean, if you're upset, imagine Yankee fan right now, how upset they are because they weren't competitive at all.
No, that was just a disgrace. I mean, especially the way Game 5 unfolded.
Can you imagine doing talk radio in New York? Do you think I'd offend a few people? I should be on WFAN.
Yeah, that'd be good. Okay.
All right. Couple more here.
Okay, speaking of L.A. championships, remember I made a comment, how many do they have in L.A.? And this is from Chags.
He counted this guy, Chaz counted everything, all sports, which is great. I'm glad they had time to do that research.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we were trying to come up with on the fly. The Lakers have won 17 championships, 11 in L.A., UCLA basketball 11, USC football 11, Dodgers 8, 7 in L.A., Rams 2, 1 in L.A., Kings 2, Galaxy 5, LAFC 1. That's 48 all in L.A. Hacksaw 40 to 50 is not an exaggeration.
Job
sir.
well done. Because when you asked us off the top of the head, I wasn't paying attention to some of the others. Should you incorporate the Anaheim Ducks? Should you incorporate, obviously, the LA Kings? Does the average fan pay much attention to MLS and the soccer championships there? So, yeah, there's a way to, if you have time, rather than do it on the fly off the top of your head, there's a way to compile. Great job. 48. That's pretty impressive.
And you can include the Angels, too. They got
Sure.
one.
Yep.
So, LA has just been loaded. And then over the last 20 years, maybe the last 30 years, San Francisco has just gotten a ton, with all the 49ers and the Warriors and the Giants.
Are you going to pull the curse of San Diego out of your pocket right now? Because how many are in San Diego?
0, unless you count the AFL in 1963.
With the AFL Chargers.
Yeah, or we have to kind of go down a step and talk about the San Diego Sockers, which are a legit organization, but it's not big time.
Okay. Thanks for doing the homework for us. You can become our chief researcher.
Okay, let's go here.
Fact check, John.
More Dodgers comment. This is from Studio. He says, I'm happy that good sportsmanship won out in the end. For the past few years as a Dodger fan, I've been hearing other fans grumble that we're too nice. We don't have the fire, meaning we weren't big enough a-holes, and that's why we kept choking in the playoffs. Turns out that wasn't it at all.
Was he one of the guys who was throwing stuff at Profar when Profar was jumping up and down and antagonizing Dodger fan in left field?
Yeah.
That's okay. It's interesting. Bill Shaken of the LA Times, who's their senior columnist, he writes a lot of business stuff, and he just wrote a column in the LA Times. I'm surprised he didn't get more play down here. He says the greatest rivalry for Dodger baseball is no longer against the Giants. It's now against the Padres. That's kind of cool. This rivalry now has gone to a much, much different dimension. And what did I don't know if you heard about Dave Roberts this week. He did a national podcast, and he said, our World Series was against the Padres.
Yeah.
Yankee fan, beside himself.
Well, did you see video clips of that? Because I think that's Mookie Betts' podcast.
Right.
And Mookie Betts is there with his sunglasses on indoors at recording this. I remember he did the one with Tatis earlier in the year, and they were both wearing shades inside. Good on them. That was the big game. I mean, that's what everyone was fired up for. The fans were fired up for it. The players were fired up for it. They knew what it was all about.
And it didn't get done.
But Andy Green is still the prophet. He goes, someday we're coming and we're going to get you. And maybe it wasn't this year. Maybe it's next year.
Okay, listen, we thank you for participating in this